Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be taking a look back at the original Resident Evil 3 to see if it still holds up as one of the scariest games in Resident Evil history. Also be sure to stick around until the end of the video to catch a sneak peek at the next episode. But for now, grab that first aid spray and let's take a trip back to 1999. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is one of those PS1 games that is still brought up in discussion among the fans today. Originally released in 1999, this game started off as a spin-off instead of a numbered sequel, but Capcom instead switched gears and made this one the third game and Code Veronica the spin-off game. Now Resident Evil 3 was also ported to the Dreamcast, GameCube, and the PC as well as the PSN years later. Many fans of the series, including myself, have always praised this as one of the best games in this series for a number of reasons, whether it's Nemesis trying to chase you down or Jill trying to solve that annoying water puzzle in the Dead Factory. This game has so much love from the fans and continues to get new fans every year, so I would like to take a look at what made this game so special to Resident Evil fans. The story takes place before and during the events of Resident Evil 2. The virus has just broken out in Raccoon City and the people of the city are just trying to make their escape as the whole town is going to complete chaos. But Umbrella has locked down the city as they have an even more evil plan for Raccoon City in the end. You play as Jill Valentine, one of the STARS members from the original game who is now trying to get out of the city as well. Though Umbrella has not made it easy for her and has deployed a new bioweapon known as the Nemesis, who is to hunt down and kill any and all remaining STARS members. Umbrella has also sent in a team of mercenaries who think they are helping out, but soon realize that there is more to their employers than they thought. But I can't talk about the story of this game without some gameplay, right? While the gameplay will mostly remain the same as the previous two games at the time, it would add some new things such as a dodging mechanic and decision making during certain parts of the game that I will talk about in just a minute. But as for the dodging mechanic, it really helped out because there are certain areas and certain situations where you're getting bombarded by zombies or dogs or hunters or even Nemesis, and you just don't feel like fighting them, you want to get past them, so you'll dodge out of the way, and Jill or Carlos, because you do get to play as Carlos too, will push them out of the way and you can easily run past them, and this really helps in the mercenaries mode, and I'll talk about that one as well. But these mechanics really made the game a little more intense than it really needed to be, and that's not a problem because Resident Evil has always been about intense moments and not knowing what was behind each door and what was going to be around the corner for you. Like I said, every moment of this game is a real nail biter because you didn't know whether you're going to run out of ammo and have to scrounge for some more gunpowder / ammo just to survive the next boss fight, or if you'd open up a door just to have Nemesis run up and knock you in the next week. I'm going to circle back around to the choices though, and what I did like about these is that when they pop up, each time you can choose one or two options or choose nothing, and it'll actually affect the game in different ways. Whether it's different pathways, new cutscenes, or even a secret bonus ending that you can unlock. Much like Resident Evil 2 though, when you play this game on hard mode and you're fighting Nemesis, he will actually drop an item box each time, whether it's weapon parts or unlimited ammo. But keep in mind that these drops don't carry over to the New Game Plus, and every time you replay the game from the restart menu, you have to collect those parts again. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of annoying, but you know, it's worth fighting Nemesis every time if you have unlimited ammo. And the other interesting detail about that is actually when you're going through revisited areas of the game, such as the Raccoon City police station, and I couldn't help but think, you know what, Claire and Leon are going to be through here soon because you see Marvin laying there in his office and you know he's been bitten by a zombie, and you know what happens next when Leon and Claire come through there. The puzzles also make a return to this series, and some of them are pretty easy, such as the music box, but one puzzle in particular is the most insane and ridiculous that I've ever had to do, and most fans know what I'm talking about. That is the water puzzle. You have to match up sounds to sterilize some water samples that are required to unlock a door. What made this puzzle annoying though is that you weren't sure which tones to pick or which shapes to pick, and you could spend up to about 30 minutes just sitting there trying to figure it out, because this was the pre-YouTube and pre-Google days, so you really didn't know what to do, and I just so happened to have a strategy guide that showed me the solution, so it was a little bit easy for me. But people playing without a strategy guide, I can understand the frustration of trying to figure that puzzle out. And yeah, you can go to Google now and YouTube now and just find videos and pictures that show you each solution to make it a little bit easier. But at the time we didn't have that, so yeah, it made it a little bit more insane and infuriating just to do that puzzle. As before, when I mentioned the mercenaries, that was one of my favorite modes in this game and one of my favorite mercenaries modes of the entire series. It was the first incarnation in this game, and what your goal is in this game is you have a bomb implanted in you and you have to go basically from point A to point B before the timer goes off and you explode. Now, one thing I enjoyed about this mode is that you go from room to room defeating enemies, much like the newer Mercenaries games, but you didn't know what was behind each door, whereas in the new ones, it's more open, you can see the enemies coming at you from afar, and at one point, you get chased by 2 times the Nemesis with 2 rocket launchers trying to kill you, and it's not fun if you ask me. So if you're not careful in that spot, you can basically die in that spot just by getting hit with a rocket. I did like that this mode allowed you to unlock special weapons with unlimited ammo, such as the rocket launcher, the Gatling gun, the assault rifle, and even unlimited ammo to use throughout the entire game. And you can do that for both the easy mode and the hard mode, which I prefer to play through the hard mode with the unlimited ammo, because they say that's the real version of the game where you get the drops from Nemesis and everything. Now, I know that later games would do the same thing, but this was, again, the first one to do it, and it made playing the Mercenaries mode worth it, because you wanted to go through each time and better your time each time and see if you could get that A rank, which in some countries is the S rank for this game. But let's talk about some of the locations in this game that were not featured in Resident Evil 2. As I mentioned before, you do come across some familiar locations such as the police station, but a majority of this game was all new areas that were not seen within Resident Evil 2, such as the Dead Factory, the park, the hospital, the clock tower, and the parking garage. Much like Resident Evil 2 though, each of these locations would have their own set of traps and monsters that you would encounter, and a lot of these places, such as these streets, would be a more open level for when Nemesis decides to pay you a visit. Now, these were easy to get past Nemesis when you're in the street levels and the more open areas trying to get away from him, because if you're in a more narrow spot, he'll either have a rocket launcher, or he'll grab your head and crush your skull, or choke you to death basically. And the more open area is easier to get away from Nemesis than like the narrow hallways that you can find him in, such as the narrow hallway in the police station. And 9 times out of 10, when that happens, your best choice is to just run away from him when you get in those narrow spots. I feel that Nemesis though is as much a part of the environment as any of the other monsters that you come across. And with that being said, let's go over the music in this game. The music actually plays a bigger part in the game this time around by giving off some sound cues to know that either something bad is about to happen, or a decision moment is about to happen, or really just a combination of both, because sometimes if you don't make a decision in time, something bad could happen to your character. While the police station would still share the same theme from Resident Evil 2, there are some tracks in the game that will give you that sense of hope, but also that sense of dread, of not knowing if Raccoon City is going to be able to survive this zombie apocalypse. Now, one of the most stress-inducing tracks in this game, and many fans will agree with me, is the Nemesis theme, because you could be going from room to room without any problems, and then out of nowhere you'll hear that fear and tension sound, and knowing that he's right around the corner because you'll hear stars in the distance, but also that fear of not knowing when he's going to show up or where he's going to show up. A few of my other favorite tracks in the game though are the City in Ruin, the City Without Hope, as well as the Hospital theme, simply because they give you that feeling that there's just no saving Raccoon City and you know that the end is near. In the end though, I think the game does have a pretty solid soundtrack, and I really think it's worth a listen when you're not playing the game. So definitely check it out if you can find it. But as we come to the end of the video, I would like to give my final thoughts on the game itself. As we wrap up the video, I wanted to go ahead and answer that one big question. Is this still one of the best Resident Evil games? I say absolutely. I still love this game to this day, and it is still one of my top 5 favorite Resident Evil games. Yes, I get that the fans didn't like the remake. I mean, I enjoyed the remake for what it was, but I do agree with them that it should not have been a full $60, and it should have been more of like $40 or $30 or something less than that, because it was essentially DLC when you really think about it. But when you also think about it, the original was kind of short too, and yes, it was supposed to be a spin-off when it started, but you can complete that game in a day, and I really don't want that to scare anybody off from playing the game, because it's still a fun game, and I think anyone who's interested in playing the original for the first time, or even revisiting it, should definitely check it out. But just keep in mind though that the physical copy can run pretty high these days for really any version: PS1, Dreamcast, N64, GameCube. Actually, GameCube is the highest version that I've seen. So my recommendation is, if you still have a PS3 lying around, definitely try and get it off there, because it's still about $10 versus the $180 I've seen it go for on physical versions. And with that, we come to the end of our episode for Resident Evil 3. What is your favorite moment from this game? Let me know down in the comments below. I would like to thank you again for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I always enjoy making these videos because it gives me a chance to revisit the past and introduce these older games to a newer audience who might be interested in trying them out for themselves. But it also gives me a chance to bring back the memories to those older fans who used to play these games back in the 90s and early 2000s, such as myself. But as always guys, be sure to hit that thumbs up and ring that bell to be notified of when videos go live, share with your friends and family, and I'll see you next time. But before we do that, let's check out what's going on in the next episode.